Hey guys, so we're gonna now talk about the Eternal speed run that happened on the same day as the Five Sunders, please. These guys are using the Orote. This first run is a practice run. It's not all the main raiders. Most of these guys are doing this where they do a little bit of a warm-up and then the follow-up. The key difference at the start here is how Five Sunders, please, they all wait in the first, sorry, Eternal waits in the first cubby. Five Sunders, please, they do the little bit of extra tech as far as going in on the inside and pulling the first pack and then dragging this pack in. Whereas Eternal is just moving straight forward and different little bits of cooldown tech. Not really shown here in this run. On this run, ADT is using Diamond Flask. Actually, sorry, no. Diamond Flask was used at the start here. So for me, I'm always obsessed about this Death Wish Chimer, how much cooldown absolute blast have they used on this first area of trash before they get to Scarum? That's always kind of my question. So they're basically fighting one of these mobs while they're fighting Scarum, which is definitely a little scary, but easy peasy. The main areas for focus are this little hallway. I don't know, we'll call it the trio cubby. This area here gets messy. The problem is that they have a lot of healers involved in the Gigapull. All these priests are involved in that. I felt like before it was a maximum of 4 healers that we were seeing going over there, but to me it looks like we have 1, 2, 3 healers that are priests, 2 paladins, and the mage, so I guess that's 6, if I can count right. But I think it's 4 healers, right? 4 healers over? I don't know. Um, we'll have to look at the next one. But the key to me is that they don't have many healers here, right? So let's look at how this pull develops from the start. They jump down, and this guardian right here is looking juicy. The problem is they needed to pull this pack farther into the cubby for a better setup. They just hit it a little too early, and they hit this guardian. Look at the guardian here, got down to like 50%. They switched to the blood washer, but if brainwasher, I should say. But if we were watching that previous video of the Five Sunders, please, and saw the DPS discipline that they had in comparison, it's no question, right? And this little ad here just caused a whole cascade of struggles. Where from this, it's going to start getting charged from different ones once they get low health. They charge to each other to provide aid, and just look at how much damage this raid takes in comparison. We watched the Five Sunders, please, how little damage they were taking, and it's just the next pack then charges into this pack, so they get hit by another knockback, and this bleed is just absolutely destroying this raid. So the speed run element of this raid does kind of fall apart here. They are able to keep it together with not a full-on wipe, and I think that is always impressive. But yeah, so what happens here is um, I think that's a tank gets mind controlled and then gets sundered and just dies. So rip, excuse me, and then a couple other people die. So I think that's a tank death, and when they're fighting a boss that doesn't have a tank, DPS are gonna die. So rip. Um, just very high damage output in this area. I think this is where a raid needs to be having a flask available, or flask set, I should say. I noticed in the Five Sunders bleeds in comparison. Obviously, this is the pre-run, so not really a fair comparison. But on the 2 actual runs in the Eternal Raid, they had 4 people with no healing on the deflast. The deflast did 300 healing, right? Nothing. And then now let's compare that over to the Five Sunders, please. They had 35k in healing. And maybe that's not still a ton, but you can see a ton of these guys have the potential to get a lot more. And you have some of these guys like Salvdali, LTR. I mean, they're getting some pretty good usage. And if you have all your warriors like that, that is how you really bridge the gap, I think, and make these pulls a lot safer. On top of the fact you just can't go crazy and have silly pulls. So besides this area of focus, I think that we need to just talk about the next troublesome area, which is the new Orote. And it's exciting to talk about. It's cool. It's great. So in this first run, like we said, it was kind of just a scuffed run, so not too much to say. They still go ahead and do some kind of crazy pulls when it comes to just chaining these really well. And I think that really is just the name of the game when it comes to good AQ40 trash is a constant drip and flow of ads. So, do they do the tech in this run? They do. So let's just see it. All of a sudden, emerge, 3, 2, 1. Suddenly it's here. And that knockback is the brutal thing. Lots of people get hit by a ton of damage when the boss first comes up and if you're in melee range. So all these warriors suddenly take a ton of damage right at the start. Kind of scary. You see there's a whole ton of target dummies that get put down. It seems like that they do eat some of the target dummies at the start, so interesting to see that. But I feel like a lip on the opener might be the Giga play. So not a whole ton to mention with that tech, but it's just scary, right? So let's go ahead and now watch the real run and see the #1 raid and how it goes. So same thing where they go up into the corner. I just wanted to mention again how all the cooldowns are popped at the start here and deflask is used by all these guys at the start so they don't have that healing potential on the later packs that we talked about being more risky. Really good drag into Scarum here. That Eradicator wasn't too dangerous and they just have a really good start, it felt like. That demo shot is really cringe though. The fact that it demo shotted a ton of people, really, really unfortunate. It was a quick fear, but yeah, you needed to have a Hodge ideally. Because having demo shot for that whole boss is pretty cringe. So now we're going to see the setup for the scary part. And to me, it just feels like the Paladin is really slow. In the other raid, SEAL Team 6 and the Paladin are just like setting up the pull really quickly. And in comparison, I just don't really feel like that's the case here. Feels like these guys are just watching as this pull is getting ready. So again, we don't have comm, we don't have great access to hear what's going on in here. But all I can see is the fact that these guys are just running into this pull. And it's kind of weird because of it. So they do have a lot better focus on the skull target. They do almost kill the mind control person though, kind of scary. Now they're on these warriors. Rip. So yeah, on warriors a little bit too much it seems. Just highest threat right here. No one seems to be tanking it. And if that happens, you are in trouble. Unfortunate. So gets res, move forward. And this bull is just sketch. Like tons and tons of damage is going out. And they kind of move backwards instead of forwards here. So again, interesting to see how this ends up being the best run. And we'll see why later with the Gigatech of the Orote. So boss does get a heal off it seems. You see Yauj there heal Kree. So again, in the best runs in the world, consistently heals seems to be happening on Kree. And unfortunately they lose a priest here. Really scary to lose a priest going into this area where high health is important. So Gauss griefing, nothing new. So moving forward, Sartura kind of sketch. Not a really good start here. Things seem to be all stacked well, but just kind of slow damage on the ads. They went in a little bit late. So yeah, people getting knocked away while Sartur is almost still full health, kind of scary. So yeah, starts running back, runs fully back, gets rezzed. Actually doesn't, just waits outside for a second, so kind of weird. Then runs forward, gets rezzed eventually. Or sorry, summoned eventually, I should say. So that's why he was waiting, because it's not like he could move forward if they're already doing Vanquish. You have to get summoned past the suppression area, so not much you can do. So they move forward. How good is the Gigapole? Looks a little scary here. Again, kind of crazy how this is the #1 run. They held it together. So this Lasher knocks everyone away, all different angles, but they have a whole ton of dummies down, and that's keeping stuff stacked pretty together. Seems like everyone has FAPs on, so when these charges are happening, no one has the poison on them and they're not dying from it. So clean Gigapole. They go into Hoo-Hoo. It just dies so fast. So really easy Hoo-Hoo. They pull 2 ads at once here for a little brief period of time. Very, very scary. Again, just really, really high damage output levels. So no one dies. They quickly go into Twin Eps. Like, look how that is just straight W and in. Another death here, unfortunate. It looks like he presses AoE shout. Yes, does press AoE shout and does not lip. Has a stone shield on that he pressed a couple seconds prior, so kind of unfortunate. Probably not intentional, I would think, that sequence of events happened like that. Griefing a bit, straight up. So get summoned again. Crazy pulls here, where they just have a ton of stuff stacked. Like, this is a wild pull. Champion's still up, so they're finishing that off. They lose their Warlock here, so they don't have things cursive wrecked for this part. And bada bing, bada boom. Just really good cleaving in this area. We're not really highlighting that because we're just watching a floor POV. And again, this is where I think it makes sense that they're all using stone shields and maybe lipping and stuff, but having a lip for right there, boom, right when that happens, I think is important. If you're a melee character, being ready to lip this huge burst of damage, I think matters. So just will be curious to see how the potion cooldown timing is adapted in this last part, if that matters, or if things are just still going to go the way they are and Stone Shield has high value also. So yeah, besides that, floor POV, we could watch a more useful POV, but it is what it is. He goes and watches another streamer's point of view here. And yeah, this ends up being the #1 run. So I think pretty quickly we can see that this run is going to get beaten. Last 2 bosses were 36-manned. DPS were not part of this fight for like what, 10% of the bosses at least. So lots more potential, lots more on the table. It's just Monday, and I can't wait to see what happens. Till the next one. Thanks, guys.